It was the 60s. I was a musician. Went through the sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and everything from atheism to agnosticism to finally getting turned on to Edgar Casey and Mad Blavatsky and a lot of psychics. And I started reading that material in the late 60s. Moved to Austin in the 70s, talked to several psychics and astrologers, and they said, "You got a lot of psychic ability." And I started giving readings. There was no internet then, so it was just to friends and the people who knew me through people. And as I traveled on the road a lot, I was a musician again, travel on the road, started giving readings with usually a regular deck of playing cards. In 1977, sort of out of clear blue, I quit a band. I wanted to kind of sort some things out, my relationship, my living space, what I wanted to do musically. Needed a break from the road. And this was January 31st, 1977. So I came back to stay at my little duplex. I just moved in there a couple weeks earlier. Had two roommates, real small, barely knew them. Well, I knew one fairly well. Uh, I called him Brendan in the book. The other guy, I called him Mark. Um, so within 24 hours, the world suddenly changed. I started picking up people's thoughts and feelings. And my roommate would walk in with a newspaper the next morning. I'd read the headlines through his eyes. My roommates left. I walked down to the store and I could feel everything everybody was thinking about. And this had just kind of seemed to come about out of the clear blue. And it was kind of fascinating at first. That night, we went to a club. And as we walked into the club, I felt a certain premonition at this certain spot outside the door. We went in the club, too much noise in the back with the band. I came out to the front, sat at the bar, thought about taking a break outside, and all of a sudden, I'm standing outside at that spot that I felt earlier. And these people are walking in the door, and they walk right through me, and it startled me. And I opened my eyes. Yep, I'm still here in the bar stool, but the door swung open, and the people walked in dressed exactly as I saw them just a second ago. And I did this a couple times. It blew my mind. My roommate came out from the back. I showed him. It blew his mind. This phenomena started building up, and it started. There was no neutral. I was either picking things up unexplained and fascinated by them, or I was looking at something, say a stranger 3 blocks away, and I'd think, scratch your head and point up to that building, and they'd do it. And then I'd take a deep breath and go, did I know that was going to happen? And pick it up. That's cool. But if I made that person do that, what if I thought car wreck? And the intensity of the thought process that I was going through, it scared the living hell out of me. At the same time, I never felt so empowered. And this went on and on. I'll give you another circumstance. I wrote a book about it, A Second in Eternity, because there's about 250 pages of circumstances that went through in this week, about half of it, this first week in 1977. We went to a restaurant one time, and my roommate, who's very concerned about me, and I am too, I don't know how to turn this off or what it is or why, so I deal with it. And he asked me, "What's going on? Can you explain how you're feeling now? I know something's been intense with you." And rather than try to explain it, I nodded at two ladies over in the corner of the restaurant, as far as from us as we could be, and asked him, "Do you know either of those ladies?" And he said, "I don't think so. Probably not." And I said, "Well, I'm going to have the brunette write me a letter just to show you." He said, "What?" I said, "I'm going to have her write me a letter." So while we're eating dinner, I keep thinking about that lady, and I'm the guy over here in the blue shirt. You don't know me, but just write me a letter. Very harmless. And 10 minutes later, as they were leaving the restaurant, they walked out, first lady, then the brunette, and she threw a napkin down on my table. And she had written in this napkin in big bold letters, "Why are you doing this to me?" Boy, did that shock me. I realized I wasn't really a harm to other people, but I was shocking them, and I was shocking myself, and I was predicting everything, and I could tell when the phone was going to ring and who was going to call. And this went on and on and on. Said there was a whole bunch of experiences right is left, left is right, whatever. In my book, A Second Eternity, I kept feeling these monitors. They called themselves the monitors, or I suggested that name or felt it. Either way, that's kind of how I thought of these soul guides, guardian angels, something. And I
How did
never
you
saw them, but I kept feeling them.
how did you get to meet them or to feel them?
Pardon me?
How did you get to meet them or to feel them?
Because I started really questioning what was going on very intensely. I mean, you can't not question it. 2 days later, life was this way, and now normal life is gone. The only thing I could do is go inside. And as I went inside trying to figure stuff out, I started feeling them. Started feeling like I'm protected, I'm covered, it's okay. It's weird, Gary, but you're okay. We're watching you. That's the best way I can describe it. I didn't feel them. I mean, I did feel them. I didn't see them, but it felt like they were kind of checking on me in shifts, because I wasn't sleeping. Every night I'd lay awake wide open, picking up things about people, picking up things about the world, seeing flashes of the future. I remember feeling this sort of need to create these triangles between myself, the world, and higher consciousness, and thinking in terms of triangles, thinking in terms of mind power, spirituality, and that totally took me over. It totally took over. And so, as that started taking over because of my curiosity, what's going on? I started feeling the monitors, and after about after about 7 days of this, I literally couldn't take it anymore. It was too much. I didn't want to see everything, feel everything all the time. I became pretty terrified. Left my apartment. I was marching somewhere, walking, actually pacing pretty fast. I was rather frantic. Middle of February 7th, as a matter of fact, 77. Um, and the intensity kept building up, building up, building up. And I finally got up to Guadalupe Street across from UT here in Austin, Texas. And it built up to the point I was just scared to death. I was crying, I was praying, I was pacing down the street, terrified, and looked around. There was people just staring at me. They didn't know what to do, and I was about to warn them, "Hey, spread out, folks! I might blow up." That's kind of the way I felt. But at the same time, I still felt this sense of protection. And all of a sudden, in the height of this intense, intense fear that I couldn't take anymore, instantaneously it dissipated. It was gone instantaneously. I felt warm. It's the middle of February. I look up and I see this huge light, like a spotlight, about 5, 6 feet over my head. And I look around and none of these people see it. And I don't care. I look up and then I realize it's a crystal table about this thick. And around the table are these 7 kind of off-white robed monitors, guardian angels. I couldn't see their faces. They were kind of like grayish, so to speak, uh, as if to say their faces didn't matter, their looks didn't matter, their sex didn't matter. It was only their presence. And they said, "Do you trust us?" in one voice, like James Earl Jones. And I went, "Wow, I don't understand what's happening. You're the monitors." "Yes, yes. Do you trust us?" And I had this short conversation that went nowhere because they kept saying, "Do you trust us?" And I finally said, "Yes, absolutely, anything." And within a second or two, I was hit head on by a speeding car. Bam. Didn't even feel it. Then I'm outside my body, watching my body get tumbled over by the car. And then I'm outside and I'm expanding out in all directions. The picture on this book shows, linearity going one direction. I was actually expanding in all directions. And almost instantaneously, I saw the whole Earth from 360 degrees, north, south pole. I remember that's the first actual confirmation of being 3D, going out in all directions. And soon thereafter, I didn't have any awareness of myself. That disappeared pretty quick. It was pure sensation. And I expanded further and further toward the end of the galaxy, to the end of the universe. I went through this level of consciousness I call the colors, that when we come in, because that's how we go out at death, and that's how we come in.
Mhm.
It ain't linear. It's expanding in all directions simultaneously, rather instantaneously too. And as I went past the edge of the universe, I felt like I saw this level of consciousness called the colors. At least that's the name that I felt was appropriate. And that is a level of consciousness that allows us, when we come in, our souls come in. We go through that. And so when we become incarnated, we've already been through the colors. We have the ability to use our senses, minds, touch, feel, so forth, to understand our own existence. And that's sort of a, like the source code we get on the way we come here. Now, we may not push that button ever in life, or certainly not as a child, but we do have the ability to tap in and learn about our infinite consciousness. But the choice is always ours. Life is always tapping us on the shoulder. Life is always trying to show us what we need to learn. In fact, I think a lot of the surprises and curveballs in life, there's no actions, there's no mistakes, there's no coincidences. There are mistakes, there's no coincidences. Everything happens by cause and effect, everything, including us being here. And so when we go through life, we experience things that shock us, surprise us, we weren't expecting. That's life's only way of showing us what we need to learn next. But we get to choose whether to open that door, learn, grow, evolve, or not pay attention, go out and have a beer and blow it off. Free will by choice is the most powerful gift humans have, because regardless of our circumstances, you know, we get to choose how to interpret them. And that came into play when I came back into my body, because I had
Did
no
you
idea
choose
who I
that?
was. Pardon me?
Did you choose that? Was
I
it a
think
choice
everything's by
for you?
choice somehow. I think to some degree it's choice. It may not. It may be so deeply embedded in so many other things in different lifetimes, or it may be a choice you made right here, right now. Uh, but I don't believe in accidents or coincidences. I believe everything happens by cause and effect, and omission or commission. You cannot choose, and guess what? The flood will get you because the water's rising. Or you can choose to pay attention, listen to the weather, and go higher ground. We always have choice. We don't always know what to do, and we don't always get exactly what we want. Life is a gamble and a chance, but if you never went through some sort of challenge or chance or confusion or chaos or fear, you'd never learn how to deal with those things. And so I came back into my body from this infinite mind, infinite consciousness that blew me away. I went through a tunnel of light, came out the other side into the sky blue eternity, no awareness of myself, but a complete awareness of infinite love, infinite possibilities, infinite creation. Uh, Nothing could limit this infinite mind. It was completely unbiased. Of course, it's got no bias, it's complete creativity. And everything that can happen will, because it's really not expending any energy. It's only infinite mind seeing itself. That's what everything is. Every molecule, atom, thought. And I was part of this until for some reason I felt like, oops, now I'm observing it. And I was pulled back through that tunnel of light, collapsing back into time and space with no idea who I was, but not particularly wanting to leave where I just had been. But I use the term spiritual gravity in my book. It felt like I was being pulled back. I didn't know where, didn't know why. I was a little apprehensive. But the closer I got to our galaxy and then this solar system and this planet, the more I started feeling some sort of affiliation with it. I still didn't know what. As I came closer and closer to my body, I saw three series of pictures. I briefly described them in the book. The first was all the chaos we're going through now. I saw COVID-19, 9/11, all these banking problems. I mean, you can turn on the TV any day and see breaking news 24 hours. So, but I saw this way back in 77. And I couldn't imagine in 77 of average guy being able to buy an AK-47 and go shoot up innocent people. But I saw those pictures. I didn't put it in the book I didn't think it was real. Well,
Yeah.
welcome to real life. It's lots of challenges. We can't change all that. What we can change is the way we look at things. And I learned through my near death experience when I came back and went through these three series of pictures, the first being the chaos, the second being the other side of this chaos, the true Aquarian age, the beauty of the world, peace, harmony. And that ain't 5 days away. It could be, decades away. It could be a century away. It's the true Aquarian age. And we're in the into the Pisces age, and we're seeing everything that's broken. That's why we're going through this world transformation, to see everything that needs to be fixed so we can fix it. Because if you don't fix it, it's still going to stay broken. Ta-da! So I suggest to everybody, be as calm and peaceful as you can in these times. Yeah, they're challenging, they're difficult, but power's on the inside. Power's on the inside, real power. So I came back into my body seeing these three series of pictures, the chaos, the other side that's beautiful. And then I saw these pictures of a musician and a psychic, and it turned out to be me. And then I saw my body and jumped into my body like, wow, I'm home. Well, I felt no pain, no shock, no nothing. I just came back from heaven. It was eerie, but I wasn't hurt at all. I jumped to my feet. Well, this red haired guy is hanging over me. He's the driver. He's terrified. Man, I tried to stop it. Get away. I'm okay. I jumped up to my feet. Big circle of people, all concerned because all they know is I just was in head on collisions. So got up like I didn't feel it because I didn't.
Yeah.
And he's trying to control, stay down. You're in shock. No, I'm not. So I decided, screw this. I'm not hurt. I'm just going to walk home. This is too confusing. Everybody said, no, wait, cops are coming, ambulance. Sure, I'll just explain it to them. I heard the sirens within about, no time, minutes. Cops, ambulance, police all showed up, and they're all looking around for a body in the middle of the street. Of course, I'm not in the middle of the street bleeding. I'm talking to all these people, asking if they saw these monitors. That didn't seem good. Cops, I said, I'm the guy you're looking for. And they all came over and asked me, one question after the next. And I tried to explain to them what happened and why I wasn't hurt. And that didn't float. No, they wouldn't let me go home. They took me to the hospital, even though I didn't feel like, because I had to x-ray me and check me out. Got the hospital, x-rayed me, checked me out, not hurt. And then in the emergency room, this man came up to me, and I'd seen a premonition of him. I knew his name, all about him. He's a psychiatrist. Blew his mind. I knew all about him. And he said, how do you know this? Were you a patient of mine? I said, no, I can tap into anything right now. And I told him a little about my experience. I just want to go home. And he said, well, yeah, I understand. I mean, I've never seen anything like this. I said, you are now. I just want to go home. He said, you can't. We got it. It's too weird. We got to get you a psychiatric evaluation. So they put me in jail. I went from heaven to the hospital, past that to jail because they
But
had to get
why
an
would
order.
you go to jail?
Because they had to get a legal order of protective custody
Okay.
from a judge or someone. They just can't throw you in the psychiatric ward without a order of protective custody. Basically, it took a couple days. My brother came in and signed it, and meanwhile, I was in jail and I was still amped up and so psychic. I was talking to all the other people in the other cells about their cases. And one of the jailers came in and said, you are not a lawyer. You have no reason to talk to these people. And if you keep doing that, we'll put you in solitary confinement. All right, I'll shut up because I didn't really want to talk to him anyway. I started a can of worms by mentioning one thing to one guy, and then how'd you know my name? Uh-oh, I shouldn't open that can of worms. So for about 10 or 15 minutes, I was talking to all the people in jail and giving them profound legal advice. And this was just pouring in. I could tap into anything. That was the issue, the problem. That's why I'm here. That's what brought me to this point. That's why I'm here now. So they finally, it took me to a psychiatric hospital, and I'm a real happy dude. I didn't care. I was, entertaining people, playing the guitar, the piano. After a week, They take you to before a whole board of psychiatrists, and they decide if you're okay to let you go free or if they need to get another 10-day mandatory commitment. Well, I told my story. I said, I ain't changing my story. This is what happened. And you folks in the mental health industry should be looking into this. There's great connections between psychic phenomena and psychosis. I mean, there's a thin line there, you know. Uh, I'm not changing my story. That's what happened. If you want to give me 10 more days, we'll do this forever. But I'm not lying and say this didn't happen. Okay. And they let me out. About a month and a half later, I had a slight relapse. Um, Went to the state hospital because I was still dealing with this premonitions about everything. It took months for that to kind of taper down. What I did not understand is why I had this experience. That was the most mind-boggling thing. I was so grateful, so profound. Even though I was just beginning to understand it, I never heard the term near-death experience, never knew anything about it, never knew anybody experienced anything like this. So I had no frame of reference other than it happened to me, and it was the most profound and true thing ever in my life. I can't underscore that enough. So anyway, months later, after me asking over and over and over to my guides, why'd y'all choose me? What did I possibly do? They finally appeared to me in, I think, October or something of 77. I didn't see them. I felt them. They were somewhere around my front yard. I was playing guitar on my porch, and they shot this light into my head. I felt, and they started repeating these words in that same one unified James Earl Jones low, calming voice. At the same time, I saw these like screen credits rolling off in the distance, reading exactly what they're saying. And it took about a second. It was just bam, bam, the reading, the voice. And what they said was, the reason you had this is you always wanted to know. You asked. You started way back in Catholic school wanting to connect with God. You studied psychic ability and religion, curious. You wanted to know. You could handle the truth. You were ready. We took you. We insured you. We brought you back. And when we brought you back, it would be so shocking that, yes, you were going to have several grounding agents. Because I even started thinking of them in terms of grounding agents. Hospital, family, court. Jesus, man. You got a joyride to heaven, and here I am getting arrested and incarcerated over it. It was beautiful and humorous.